So here the most important factor is this was one of the progressive episodes of expansion of the Suda's territory to the northwest. One of the final expansion is up to here. So this is just one step before that. So the Vishwamitra was here, and he saw this rivers, this conflict. These two rivers are merging together in this particular point. So that is the point here. The poet, Vishwamitra as a poet is describing that like crossing of the river. So it's a very wonderful poetry where he's conversing to the rivers and treating them as his sisters. So both Vipas and Sududri, or Bias and Satluj, are treated as the sisters of Vishwamitra. And then he is requesting the sisters, please reduce the flow. Please reduce the flow of the river in your confluence so that Sudha's army can cross it. And Sudha's army consisting of a lot of wagons driven by bull. And this is another important information which help us in the chronology, because these are not mentioned. Sudha's army is not mentioned as chariots driven by horses or anything like that. And this is early Ṛgvedic period. So typically the mention of horses in the Ṛgveda increases from the early Ṛgvedic period to middle to late Ṛgvedic period. The large amount of using of horses is only like in the middle and late Ṛgvedic period. So this is also very much chronologically very much well aligned, because the horses we are able to get the horse-driven vehicles, which are called chariots, only starting from 2000 BC onwards, and of course with a stretch in 2200 BC also. And in archaeological records, we see like chariot burials with the horse, horse also buried along with the chariot, and which is a clear signature that this is a horse-driven chariot. This is as part of some rituals, burial rituals. When a king dies or a warrior dies, all his weapons and the chariot, everything is buried together along with the king. So in certain burials, you see a chariot buried together with the king or a warrior, along with the horses that driving it. And this is a very clear signature of the chariot, usage of chariot driven by horses. So chariot burials are there in India as well as all over the world, along that same latitude of this Delhi, Punjab. So even if you go to east and west, like westward up to Greece and Rome, there are chariot burials in various culture, like in Greek and Roman culture, Greek culture, Mesopotamian culture, even Egyptian and Arabian slightly little bit, or Iranian that culture. Everywhere the chariot burials are there, not just in India. So they are all in a chronological span of 2200 BC onwards. It is so far we have not got any chariot burials older than 2200 BC. And so all over the world, the archaeologists are of opinion that the chariot as a technology become very much prominent during 2200 BC onwards. Actually, 2000 BC onwards, we are giving a little bit stretch, saying that 2200 BC. So 200 BC, basically 200 years are just a buffer actually. So around 2200 BC to 2000 BC only we have chariot burials, and very clear evidence of people using chariot driven by horses, etc. So this particular sutta, this is a kind of a praise of Vipas and Sududri, very similar to Nadi Sutta, but in Nadi Sutta there are 21 rivers mentioned, but here only 2 rivers are mentioned, Vipas and Sududri, and both are mentioned as a you can say sisters of Vishwamitra. So here what happens, that narrative itself very clearly shows that the chariot or whatever wagons, the war vehicles of Sudhas, not a horse-driven war vehicle, but typically Agnya. Agnya is a synonym of cows and bulls. Agnya means cannot be killed. So very clear indication. Not only this word Agnya, but various other words, very clearly indicating it is a bull-driven chariot. So this Vishwamitra is praying to requesting the rivers not to kill these draft animals, which are traveling along, crossing the confluence by reducing the flow of the river, because typically when this river crossings are very very tricky problem. When the river is getting the army is crossing the river, there may be flow of the river, huge flow of the river, then the animals will get killed, mainly because their neck get completely strangulated because of the flow. It creates a lot of forces inside the water, so that whatever burden on the draft animal like bull, everything, it get completely, like their neck get completely strangulated and they'll die there. So that is why Vishwamitra is asking the rivers, please be kind to the draft animals of King Sudas. Please not affect the integrity of the vehicles which are traveling. So all these things, and the rivers are responding in a poetic manner. Yes, we will do that. All that kind. And there is another significance here, because Sudas is a great Indra worshipper, and Indra is famous for controlling the rivers. So as an Indra worshipper, the Sudas as well as Vishwamitra. So the rivers are becoming very kind to the King Sudas as well as the Vishwamitra, who is both a poet as well as a commander of Sudas, commander of the army of Sudas. So that is the kind of significance in which the river is mentioned here. And this is a very important historical episode, which we can get from Ṛgveda regarding the military expansion of Sudas, especially towards the northwest. In the next session, regarding Yamuna, we will actually explore Sudas military expansion towards the east in the Yamuna region. But here we are actually getting this. This is the stage one of his westward expansion, northwestward expansion. In the next, we will be able to see Sudas reaching having a conflict here, subsequent sessions. And that time, instead of Vishwamitra, Vasishta was the advisor to Sudas. And Vasishta was somewhere observing this battle that occurred in the Indo-Pakistan border, where the 10 kings, the army of the 10 kings assembled here in the northwestern region of the Parushni River, very precisely and surprisingly in the Pakistan region. And Sudas was in this area in the Punjab, because his border is up to here. Sudas was here, the army of Sudas was here, and the army of the 10 kings was here. They were on the both side of the river Parushni in the Indo-Pakistan border. They were conflicting each other. This is the final episode of the after this, Sudas crossed this particular boundary, and of course this 10 kings overall part of the they were living in this river like Asikni and Jalam river. So theoretically, after the conquest, all the people living here, they fled, or they they submitted to the empireship, or they submitted to the reign of Sudas. So he was able to control our region up to here. So I mean, maybe directly his rule extended up to here, Parushni, but because of the conquest, he was able to be dominating this much region, and that is why one of the in fact all of the 10 kings, they have to flee, including Samvarana. We mentioned the ancestor of the Pandavas, and also the Anava leader Kavi Chayamana. Everybody is fled. So, because they cannot stay here, because this is also Suda's control. They can't stay here. Again, it is in Suda's control. They went across the Sindhu River, and I'll subsequent passage also. There is a river called the Sarayu here, tributary of Sindhu. That is where they settled. So, because this entire area coming under the dominion of Sudas, this has happened. So, this is all subsequent in our subsequent sessions. We will discuss about these aspects. So that is about that the geographically, what happened during the Vipas Sududri, and there are this is the main thing that is there for the regarding the river Vipas and Sududri, and there are many other passages where the Sudha, this Vipas and river Vipas and Sududri comes into Ṛgveda. that one is about the rivers are mentioned again. Vishwamitra has mentioned about the rivers as female charioteers, etc. All this, so that again I have prominently mentioned it in my book, which means that there existed female charioteers. That is the reason why the rivers are also compared with female charioteers. That means there was a general equality, or I mean, that may be a modern word, but see, the ancient people, they don't care about whether it is a male or a female. Everybody was free to be a warrior or free to be a chariot or etc. In the Mahabharata, we get a glimpse where Shikandi is mentioned as a male, both male and female, but when you examine closely, she is a female. But people call her male because of her activity of participating in battles and weapons. So this is also another. So it was also very much part of the Aitihasic period in the Mahabharata, but somehow later on, our participation of women maybe fluctuated, because because in the British period we have Jhansi Rani and other people again for becoming queen and fighting, etc. So there was some kind of a fluctuation in the role of women in between in Gupta era, etc. But otherwise, in the early Ṛgvedic period, in the Aitihasic period, and in the later in the British conflict, etc., we see a lot of things like that. And another interesting aspect in which the river Vipas is mentioned is about regarding some passages related to calendar transformations, etc. So the Indra is famously mentioned as conflicting with Ushas. So it is mentioned in a poetic manner where the cart, again a wagon or a cart. So it's not like a horse-driven chariot, but some kind of a wagon or cart. The cart of Ushas, the goddess Ushas. Like Indra struck that cart and also conflicted with the sun. So we will wonder what it is all about. Like, is it like a conflict of gods and goddesses with each other? So when in close examination, what I understood is that because Ushas and sun both represent chronology and calendar, because ancient period the calendar was defined based on the motion of sun, and Ushas is basically the solar energy during the dawn and the dusk. This is Sandhya. So the goddess Ushas in the Ṛgveda is also present in the Aitihasic period in the form of goddess Sandhya. And again, one more thing is Ushas is also a representation of the female aspect of a Venus. So of course, in the Indian scheme of thing, Venus is mentioned as Shukra and corresponded to Shukracharya, who is an ascetic and a male. But in the Ṛgveda, we see more this same star is represented as a female, Ushas. And Ushas also, so in the same way, Ushas is also Sandhya, morning sun, as well as Ushas represent the Venus star. And this ancient representation of this Ushas, or the planet Venus, as Ushas or the goddess, is actually carried forward into the Greek and Roman culture as Venus. Venus is a Roman goddess, right? Representing the planet Venus. And the Greek, I think Aphrodite, yes. So these we will wonder like why we have a Shukracharya male as representing the planet, the particular planet, and why the other cultures very much related to Bharata, like Greek and Roman, have female. The answer is we in Ṛgveda we already have the female aspect of the same planet as Ushas. So what I am saying is the Indra breaking the cart of Ushas signifies that there is a Venus-based calendar, the calendar which used the motion of sun as well as motion of Venus, planet Venus, to create a calendar. Calendar is required for harvesting, when to harvest. All these things are based on calendar. So in the early Ṛgvedic and middle Ṛgvedic, this is in the middle Ṛgvedic passages, these recognition. So in the middle Ṛgvedic period, there was requiring a calendar reform. And that calendar reform is represented in a dramatic manner that Indra is breaking the chariot of Ushas and also attacking sun, etc. So there is no kind of a conflict between the gods and goddesses, but it is actually representing a calendar reform. And why I'm telling all these things because the cart of Ushas broken down as per the poet in the Vipash river. So this is just a poetic, geographically they just mentioned that broken down in the Vipash river. But that is not very significant. Basically, the calendar reform is of the higher significance here. And so this has also have a lot of things to do with the later concept like Kala Chakra, 4 yugas, etc. So if for example in the social media, the biggest question asked to me is about yugas, and whenever I say about the Pandavas lived in 1793 BC Kurukshetra war and Rama lived in 1940 BC, etc., people immediately ask is what happened to the yugas. So the answer here is that whatever we consider as a kind of like fundamental definitions of the yugas with 42 lakhs, 43 lakhs, 20,000, etc. Number of years of a Mahayuga. These are all emerged very late. Late means even like later than the Pandavas in the Puranic evolution period, especially in the late period, very close to Aryabhata and maybe a few hundred years before Aryabhata, these kind of concepts emerged about. So because in the Mahabharata, the practical yuga followed by the Pandavas is a 5-year yuga. That is, one yuga consists of 5 years. And there are 4 equal 5-year yugas, or 4 yugas which are equal in length, like 5-year, 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 total 20 years. And 20-year yuga is correspondent with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction cycles. So Saturn and Jupiter conjunct in any Rashi or any star, any nakshatra within 20 years. And it will return back to the same nakshatra within 16 years. So there is a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction anywhere in the sky in 20 years. And there is a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in a specific nakshatra in the sky in 60 years. And 2 such conjunctions is like there's 120 years. And these are all very much related to Kumbh Mela, which is like 12 years cycle of Jupiter. And of course, we don't have anything corresponding to the 30-year cycle of Saturn. But ultimately, Kumbh Melas coincide with the 60-year cycle of Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in a particular nakshatra. So we have a kind of what are the ancient rishis done is this practical yuga of Mahayuga of 20 years with 4 yugas of 5 years each, which corresponded with the 20-year cycle of Saturn-Jupiter, 60-year cycle of Saturn-Jupiter, then 120 years Saturn-Jupiter cycle, then 1,200 years Saturn-Jupiter cycle. In the later stage, 12,000 years Saturn-Jupiter cycle, which is recorded in the Mahabharata as a conversation of Markandeya and Yudhishthira. These are a later evolution, but it is attributed to Markandeya and Yudhishthira, etc. And that is the last but one stage of 12,000 years. Then the last stage yuga is multiplied by 360. Where is the number 360 coming from? Because in the ancient period, solar year contained only 360 days. The 5 days were not considered. So 360 years is used for multiplying the 12,000 years of Mahayuga. And then you got this 43 lakhs 20,000 years of Yuga. All these are connected with this particular reference about because the starting point of all these these calendars, which are based on mainly based on the motion of sun, and also based on the motion of Shukra, that is Venus or Ushas, female form, or Brihaspati, that is Jupiter. Anyway, Jupiter Jupiter is always in all the 3 cultures, Greek, Roman, and Indian. Brihaspati, male divinity. So we can see the starting point of all these things in the Ṛgvedic period. Of course, there are many things happened before Ṛgveda, but we don't have information about it. Probably got recorded into some Harappan, early Harappan like iconography, which we cannot decipher. But during whatever happened during the Ṛgvedic period is captured into the Ṛgveda, and we are happy to understand it by going through the passages. So with that, I am concluding this today's session. So here we have very rarely touched upon astronomy also, because there is a slight footprint with the river Vipash, where just because the poet mentioned the chariot of goddess Ushas broken down because of action of Indra on the Vipash river. So maybe the poet is encoding some historical or geographical information here, and I guess maybe some rishis who are studying astronomy was on the banks of river Vipash. That much only we can say, because we don't have much information. Otherwise, it can be on any river. Like why the Indra broke down Usha's chariot? Chariot in this, I mean, you understand. Chariot means just the system of astronomy, the calculation of like calendar calculation. There is no actual chariot here. So it could be somewhere in Parishni River, could be in Sindhu River, Saraswati River, or Yamuna or Ganga, but it is happening in Vipash River. That means the rishis who are focusing on this astronomical, calendrical reform, etc., were living on the banks of Vipash River. No other, I could not see any other reason why the Vipash got involved in this entire astronomy kind of discussion. So now we will look for questions, comments, and discussions. Thank you.